Hello everyone, welcome to Research Methodology. My name is Tin and then I will talk to you for around 10 minutes for today. This is Unit 2 and we are going to talk about quantitative research approach. In the section today, I will talk about surveys. Particularly, I will talk about the survey question design and some examples of the question items that you have already designed. First, let's talk about survey question design. In this part, I'm going to talk about 20 considerations that we need to care about when we design the question items for the survey. First, we need to make sure that the items in the survey can cover research questions comprehensively. We need to make sure that we can use appropriate scales of measurement for the items. We also need to consider the suitability of the question types used in the questionnaire, whether they are dichotomous, multiple choice, rating scales, ranking scales, open number, non-numerical answers. We need to keep the survey simple and short. We should use the whole short sentences only. We need to consider the order of the questions. Remember that questions are not independent of each other. The answer to one question may affect the answer to another in the participant's mind. The first question may be used as a standard against which participants compare the later questions. We need to arrange the order and organization of the survey in such a way that it is easy for the respondents to understand. We need to group together questions that cover similar topics with subheadings. We need to ask all branching questions before asking follow-up questions if branching questions are used. We need to start the survey with questions that participants find meaningful and interesting, and they are able to answer. We need to avoid putting the important questions at the end of the survey. We need to use concrete, specific, and precise terms to facilitate exact understandings. We need to avoid double-barreled questions, long and complex questions, technical language, negatively worded items, ambiguous questions, leading questions, questions which may cause embarrassment. We need to ensure that the wording is comprehensible to the respondents. We also need to consider the participants' willingness to answer the questions correctly and honestly. We need to justify if the respondents will actually know the answers. We need to judge how the respondents will regard and feel about the questions. We need to keep sensitive questions until the later part in the survey. We need to avoid overloading the participants with thinking, recalling, reading, and responding. We need to ensure that the questions apply to all the participants that we want to target. We also need to consider the medium of survey administration, like email, or is it face-to-face interview, is it from the website, or over the phone. We also need to consider the presence of the interviewer. Now, in the second part, I'm going to look at some examples that you have already provided. First one, these items are written to measure English acquisition. 1. How often do you practice English? 2. What mistakes do you often make? 3. What proficiency do you want to gain? First of all, when we look at the concept of English acquisition, it is not very clear about what you actually want to measure. You want to look at the achievement of the English acquisition, or you want to look at the factors contribute to the progress of English language acquisition, or what? Because when we look at the three questions over here, I don't think that they all together can measure a construct. So first one, how often do you practice English? It seems that it's about the time that people spend on learning English. What mistakes do you often make? So it seems that it's about the problems that people can make when they learn the language. And then the last one is what proficiency do you want to gain? So that is a kind of willing, a desire to learn the language, or a target that the students would like to achieve. So it's not very clear about exactly the acquisition that you want to measure. So you can see that if the construct is not clear, it is impossible for us to write suitable items to measure the construct, because we do not know what the construct is, right? Okay. More importantly, when you look at these questions, you can see that there are no pre-designed responses. Remember that we are looking at quantitative research, and in quantitative research survey, all the responses must be designed in advance by the researchers. Participants only need to choose the responses provided by the researchers. They cannot create their own responses. The second example. This one is written to measure motivation. Is your learning motivation based on the teacher's characteristics? Always, sometimes, rarely, and never. First of all, you can see that this is a yes-no question. And if it is a yes-no question, it does not go with these types of responses. Okay? So you have to either change the questions or change the responses to make sure that both of them can match with one another. In addition, if you look at the scales always, sometimes, rarely, never, you can see that there must be something missing over here, right? So it is always, yes, always, and then it's often, and then sometimes, rarely, and never. The third example, this one is written to measure motivation. I learned English to communicate with the native speakers when studying abroad. You can see that the question is quite lengthy, especially with the last part when you say when studying abroad. Actually, it's not necessary, because if you only need to say, I learn English to communicate with the native speakers, that's enough. Even though it is when you are in Vietnam or when you go to other countries, it doesn't matter. But even though the phrase native speakers, I think that that's not enough. It seems that you want to talk about native English speakers, right? The fourth example. This question is written to measure learner autonomy. How often do you adjust those strategies if you find there are anything not suitable for you? Okay, I'm not talking about the grammar, but at least you can see that when you say, if you find there are anything not suitable for you, and then you go together with the word adjust, it becomes redundant. Okay. You adjust because you think that, or you find out that there is something not suitable for you, and that's why you adjust. So you don't need to include the second part. How often do you adjust your learning strategies? Or how often do you adjust learning strategies? And that's enough. Okay. Look at the scale. It goes from always, usually, often, occasionally, never. There should be a problem with this one. I think that the problem is because usually and often they mean the same thing. So you should not say usually and often. It is always, usually, um, occasionally, rarely, and never. All right? For today, thank you very much and enjoy your item writing for the survey. Bye.